Yes, Coffee Conversations with Greg J is on. Good morning. How are you today? Did you have a good weekend? 4th of July weekend, time for family and getting together and barbecuing and all of those things, summer activities, right? Thank you so much um, for freedom. So I say that in a way of really perspective, right? We've been thinking a lot about freedom. 4th of July is all about American independence. For those of us who are American descendants of slaves, in those days that independence was declared, we were not even considered, we were only considered 3/5 of a human. We were more chattel slavery, like, chattel. Somebody say, what is chattel? So your car is chattel, right? A piece of property. And that's the deal. But I think that for me, just 2 weeks ago, just think we were celebrating, commemorating Juneteenth. Then the Supreme Court overturns Roe v. Wade. Then we come into 4th of July and we begin to, consider American freedom. Freedom is in the air. Women want freedom of choice. I believe in that. Freedom of choice. They want choice. It's her choice, man. Come on. How are we going to regulate? Complex issue right there, but still, it's the woman's choice. Being free, as the slaves were freed. It's a long story. There are a lot of twists and turns how we got freed, and trust and believe it wasn't because of compassion. It was more politically driven, economically driven, that they began to even consider freeing Black people in America. No matter what it is, as we grow as Black people in America, it is important that we examine our roots. You know that here we're always talking about building bridges of music, arts, and culture with Mother Africa. We're serious about it. We're intentional about it. We've got a few things coming up here that's going to underscore our position as we talk about building bridges of music, arts, and culture with Mother Africa. One of those things is, man, I'm getting inducted into an African family. Isn't that cool? Cameroonian. I did my DNA. I know that I'm from Cameroon. I don't know what tribe, although my Cameroonian friends will say, okay, you look Bamenda, okay. But so I know that someone in my bloodline made it from Cameroon across the Middle Passage to here. Now, make no mistake. I mean, I'm born and raised Southern California, San Diego. My daddy from Texas, mom from Pennsylvania. The generations before them from the South, Florida, Mississippi. On and on and on as far as I can go back. And that is a project that I'm going on right now, is trying to find out how far back them Johnsons go. I'm trying to figure it out. But the thing of it is that my consciousness is all about building bridges of music, arts, and culture. And so I thought it was important. And I'm exceedingly honored that my friend, Brother Uechenna, he's here with us this morning. They're inducting me into a family. That's a great program that they have. They're involving us Americans into African culture so that we know, so we taste, so that we see. Let's bring Brother Uechenna in now. Uechenna, good morning.
Brother, how you doing?
Man, I always get a big kick of seeing you, man, because we go back like 8 tracks, my brother.
That's right. That's right. back as in 2003, 4, there and about. It's been a
Wow.
long time. Yes.
Yeah, long
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Well, you are the CEO of an organization called African Focus. You are a continental African. We can tell by your accent. Otherwise you look, like the homie on the block. Brother Uchenna, tell us what African Focus is and what is the motivation, the driver behind that initiative.
Well, African Focus as an organization was founded in 2001, and we started operation in 2003. So part of the reason is actually my own journey and discovering more about who I am and who is my family. Um, Fast forwarding, when I graduated from, I went to Loyola Marymount University, and while I was in school, I took a couple of classes in different junior colleges just to make ends, make up my grades so that I don't have to pay all this money in these big colleges. But I begin to learn more about who I am and who the brothers and sisters that I met in this great place are. And I would be lying if I said I wasn't conflicted. I keep feeling sense of guilt, sense of responsibility, helplessness. What could I have done if I had found myself in the other side of the continent, which means being born in this area versus being born in the continent. So that kind of drive me to begin to holistically look into what can I do. If I were born in America and lost all my heritage, lost all my sense of belonging to the continent, what will I expect people from the continent to do for me? And that is one of the things that drive and that gave way to me coming up with African Family Induction Ceremony, among
Mm,
other things that the organization does. But I would like to focus on this particular program.
mm,
To me, it is a conduit through which most of the artificial barriers that exist between the continental African families and their relatives in the diaspora. So, how do we do that? We've heard how much we all related, how much, the whole story about slavery and all of that. Okay, there is that fact that we are bloodly related. But what are we doing? Forget about academic studies and research and all of that. It still didn't give me the satisfaction that I needed. So I decided that the best way to give back, I've benefited from the freedom, from the fight that our brothers and sisters put up, our, you know, to gain freedom and the privileges that I came in 30, 40 years ago to become, to enjoy, to go to school and enjoy, quote unquote, the American dream for whatever that may mean. But without my relatives here, I wouldn't have had that opportunity. But how
mm,
do I, as a continental Africans, give back? So I decided, thought about it. I said, well, the least I can do is to start up this program that will acknowledge them as my brothers, as my sisters, restore the dignity the best way we can that was stolen, and make them part of my family. So the conversation started in the African community. It wasn't an easy thing.
mm,
Started in the African American community. It wasn't an easy thing either. The pushback was heavy. I'm talking about even almost with a threat. Don't start this nonsense. That's what it was called then. We work so hard to be American. Now you're trying to start this program to take us way back to the, you know,
right.
we can't do that. We Americans. I say you still missing the point. I'm not taking anything away from you being American, but I believe we need to restore our relationship, our families that were broken by enslavement, by slavery, by colonization. What do we do about it? And that's what gave way to this program that we call African Family Induction.
Uechenna, that's very profound because we do see in the American communities, the Black American communities, there is pushback oftentimes about embracing things of Africa because we're not told the rich history. We are taught a very backwards viewpoint of our brothers and sisters, in Africa. And one thing is true that there's been such, you know, prominence placed on our ability to be American, to speak proper English, to assimilate. The country wants us to assimilate and just shut up and what is the shut up and dribble, that's what the country wants us to do. And so when we begin to look back to our brothers and sisters in Africa, we automatically assign stereotypes that the system has given us about our brothers and sisters. Now, I do these trips to South Africa every year, and we go for the Cape Town Jazz Festival. And at the end of the tour, we give them, we ask them, how did they like the trip? What could we do better? The ascertainment form, right? And one of the number one comments always is, Brother Greg, they don't show us this Africa. Meaning when they're going through the streets of Johannesburg and Cape Town, they're surprised at the cosmopolitan nature. These are cities in Africa. Why? Because they have been taught that all the Africans are in grass skirts and huts out in the middle and the babies with the flies on them and stuff. But that is the furthest from the truth. When we were in Ghana recently, we did our tour through the slave dungeons, and we had a candlelight vigil, and the person that led that candlelight vigil said, all we see are images of the enslaved in chains, just like a loincloth on or all that. And we reject that. It's like they would have us think that, they went in and they got all these savages, but we reject that because what? We had artisans, we had buildings, we had cities, we had colleges, libraries, and that's where they took the people from, these civilizations out there. And we've got to do the work that's required to overturn that misconception.
Yes. Yes. Before you go on, I may even add, the pushback was not just from the brothers and sisters in the diaspora. It was also from the African community here.
Mm-hmm.
How do we become, what do you mean? You mean we're going to be in the same meeting with them? We're going to do them? Who are the them? Your own relative are the them? Or on the other side, there is equally fear between these two families that are one family, the continental African families and the diaspora families. We just have to find that conduit, that bridge, and begin to dialogue, begin to see each other much more in a better light. And the heavy lifting is on me. When I say me, meaning the continental Africans need to do more, because we are the current custodian of Africa as in landmass, as an economy, as the geopolitical relevance. So if we don't bring our brothers and sisters into the fold with their own shared talent and exposure and all what you may, it will become much more difficult for us to move forward. Because I always say this: Africa will not know peace, progress, until the cries of our forefathers enslaved and taken to foreign land have been made whole by their children. You want to make Africa progress. Africa is struggling. But our leaders haven't really sit back and said, what if you think all those cries are for nothing? All the pain, all the yearning, we need to do more to reconcile our people. I can't imagine me being being born in the diaspora, being asked, Greg, this is where it irritates me more. I'm sorry if my voice is elevated, because that's how angry I am.
All right, let's go.
Being asked to present a visa to come back.
Wow.
How dare you, after all I've gone through, now you asking me, I need a paper to show you what? I'm an you need more to see who I am? The palace you're occupying, the land you're occupying belongs to you and I.
Mm-hmm.
You need to even celebrate me coming back. You need to make way for me to be part of the rebuilding of the continent. Instead, you put in one roadblock or the other. I need a passport. I need a visa. I need this. I need citizenship. Really? That is where my anger comes. And that is where this family induction starts, because I realize I don't have the political will to make my brothers and sisters in the diaspora part of any nation, quote unquote, in Africa. But I have the willpower to say, Greg J, you are my brother. You coming into my culture, my family. I introduce you to my family and say, this is my brother. Government cannot do nothing about it. They can't stop it. No culture can stop it, because I have the right to say this is my brother and introduce you as part of my family. And that's what induction is all about. It's reunification of families the best way we can. I'm happy with the progress being made recent. When we started 20 years ago, this thing wasn't. Now we see more people going back home. I'm thrilled. I'm joyed. I'm excited. We see some of the Africa AUs doing few things here and there. I see some of the countries beginning to give citizenship. Great, but it's not enough. We need to share African destiny with the people that we own it with. We own Africa with our brothers and sisters in the diaspora. As long as they're willing to come back, as long as they're excited to be part of rebuilding the continent, what are we waiting for? Why are
You
we
know, as
making this a problem? It shouldn't be, it should even be celebrated. You know, Africa
you
have
know,
enough land.
as we begin to go into this present generation, we're global. It's easier to talk all around the world with available technology and everything. And I think that as have this reckoning that's happening uh, in the Black community, we're looking around. I mean, the kid was shot 60 times by the police yesterday on Freedom Day. We're seeing that, like my mother used to say in the civil rights movement, the more things change, the more they stay the same, right? So therefore, I just think that as we build these bridges of music, arts, and culture with Mother Africa, we begin to accelerate trade with the richest continent on the earth, right? Is like all that we've got to begin to leverage our educational and economic resources to build these bridges back and forth of commerce, of business. This is what's important to me. And I think that, we have to embrace our Africanness. I am so disappointed when we talk about, hey, we're taking a tour group over to Africa. How many brothers and sisters are like, I ain't going to no Africa. Like,
Yeah.
what? But you want to go to Europe,
Mm-hmm.
Paris,
Yeah,
all
yeah,
these places. And
yeah.
man, it's really, really, really amazing. Let me ask you, Uechenna, you said something earlier that is it's a sentiment that I know my continental African brothers and sisters have. I've heard it a couple of times, and you say guilt. And I say, well, what does that mean? I remember after Trump made his shithole comments. Remember that a couple of years ago? He said he
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
called all the countries shitholes. Um, and we held this panel discussion about dispelling the myths of Africa. And my sister that was on there, Pam and Chang, was talking about how her bloodline came from, a level of royalty. And sometimes when she looks about America, the condition of the brothers and sisters here, she says, well, are my ancestors the ones that that caused this? Did we cause this thing? And I felt like that was a really profound, observation, man. Is like we don't think about it like that sometimes, that the brothers and sisters are carrying a level of guilt or questionable guilt in their consciousness when they look and see, the conditions of of Black folks here. On the other hand, I know that our continental Africans, when they make the immigration trail, they're not exactly told the history of what's happening over here either. What is it that makes you feel guilty about the condition of Black folks in America?
Well, it is it's one of those things, like I mentioned earlier, that you have to look at yourself,
Mhm.
and then you see your brother. When I got here, the way our people are being treated, I never for once, you know, believe that is somebody better than I am,
Mhm.
or being made to feel like I'm subservient or I'm some second class to anybody growing
Mhm.
up.
Mhm.
My challenge growing up, like every other young person growing up in Africa, is entirely different. It may be economic. It's not about sense of what. It's not about who you are. Even as a man, you growing up knowing that this is my tribe, this is my people. There's a strength to it. There is this power to it. But when you come here, you see that level. I know you asked me in terms of the role Africans played in terms of slavery, but the reality is this: we all live in LA right now. We have among our own people, we have gang members. Does that mean that every Black person in LA is a gang member? The answer is no. You know what I mean? Does that mean everybody is running a certain way? Yes, during the colonization of Africa, during the slavery, you're going to have some criminal element. One don't need to look and see the way the colonizers operate. They find the weakest among the weakest to empower them to do what they're going to do. At the end of the day, it is their strategy. Are they going to find partners? You bet. They're finding partners right now in Africa. Look at the kind of leaders we have. Think about it. I mean, are they the best Africa can produce? Heck no. Is Africans selecting their own leaders? Heck no. Some people are sitting down somewhere and making a decision who's going to govern and who's not going to govern. And guess what? That's what I believe. This is my belief. But doesn't mean I don't feel the plight of our brothers and sisters when you see the whole journey, leaving Africa, coming in here, the ongoing abuse and slaughter and all of that going on. Yes, I feel guilt. I feel a sense of I wish I can do something for my own people. Doesn't mean that um, I don't acknowledge some role our people played, but guess what? Before they showed up, we were not taking people and put them in the water and send them to the middle of nowhere. They came and they find accomplices
Yes.
because they still doing it till tomorrow. So what are we talking about?
Yeah.
They're gonna find who's gonna do the deed for them. Adam is on them. But Africa need to have its own strategy. The only one continent that don't have no plans. You know, they don't have no plan for the next 2 years, let alone the next 10 years, in the next 20 years. But the one coming to steal from you, they have plans from now till maybe the next 100 years, and they stay on it. So, yes, I feel good that I wish I can do more for our people, but on that context, because hey, not everybody in Africa was involved in slavery,
Right.
and if you look at it, when a young man who is 20 years old or 30 years old in his prime youth with the two children goes to the farm, get kidnapped, sold into slavery, maybe somebody in the village was accomplice, right, in selling him. Does his children, the mother and the father he left behind, were they celebrating? Or they were filled with pain? Never knew when this loved one will ever come back. He never came back. So there is the same thing, the same hurt on both sides. And another thing I usually say, which one is better? If you rape by the master in his bedroom, or you are taken from the bedroom to the bush and rape, both of them are still rape. It's still the same feeling. Colonization hurt many families left behind by those who were taken away. The hurt and the pain is deep. So both families are victims. And here you have two victim families fighting each other, which one is more victim than the other, instead of finding a way to reconcile and bring back, have energy that they can build better future. We're still going into who did what, who Africans did this. You're blaming a victim, which is what we all are. Yeah.
It's interesting. I began to study because when I started going down. I mean, I've been about this road of look. If you know Greg J, I'm all about building this bridge with Mother Africa.
Yes.
I've been on this road for a very long time. And one thing that I hear from my people that grieves me is when they say, the Africans, they don't like us, And I'm like, what do you mean? We are so much different. I mean, so much we're more the same than we are different. And I'm gonna share two stories with you, actually three. I want to go back to something you said about the gang members. Like if we really put our street lens on, in the streets, man, when you know about an African gang, they're the most purest, hardest, the Africans, the Haitians, all of these people are like in the streets. When you hear about those types of organizations, it's like, okay, these are the strongest and the purest, so it's pretty interesting. But I want to say, I began to study why do my people say, the Africans don't like us. And I know there's a lot of academic papers out there that you can find. People have written their doctoral thesis and all that kind of stuff, analyzing that very question. And it all boils down to this, family. I'm talking to the people that, who might be listening to our conversation. Our brothers and sisters in continental Africa were under the system of colonization and then the missionary system and all of that. So a lot of times the continental Africans' dealings with white folks is fundamentally different than what we dealing with over here. You know what I'm saying?
No doubt.
But
Yes.
at the same time, my friend she's an expat now, she lives in Ghana. Dr. Sharita said, she said it's a different type of rape, but it's still rape. Meaning they're trying different ways to get to the natural resources on Mother Africa, where here they're just brutal. And, they stole us out of Africa and they want to keep us, it's been really, really brutal. And while there are many, many stories of brutality on Mother Africa, when the missionaries come in, they want to love you up and provide you with accesses to education and all of these benefits, trying to train the brothers and sisters up in their image. But at the same time, the brothers and sisters are getting their education and going back and uplifting their own community. And while the brutality on our end has not allowed us to do that at the pace that we would have liked to have. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. Yes, I do. I mean, there are many factors involved in this whole um, situation or condition between the diaspora and the continental Africans. I do agree with that, but at the same time, I hate to not that I just want to point out that the continental African individuals and families need to do. We need to level the playing field. We need to embrace more. We need to create a sustainable campaign and program. Do you know? I'm not going to say. I'm going to say it, loosely here, that you grow. Even me growing up, I didn't read much about African American history. Who is that? The only thing I know about African Americans is Michael Jackson, Eddie Murphy, and all the stars that are on the TV. I don't know nothing about. Yes, I watched Roots.
Right.
Roots was even more entertaining. You see the young man doing whatever, right? It wasn't more like recall lecture and say, this was what was done wrong to your people, or this is the fact about Africa. Even now, one of the things that I really want to do, I hope I'm blessed to do it, is to build African American Museum, if nowhere else where I came from. I need people to know the plight and the struggle and the success, the inspiration they can draw from the African American progress and status, because we can look at it one dimension. Without African Americans liberating themselves, Africa will still be, we still are colonized anyway. I mean, we haven't really attained the level of freedom anybody can write home about. Where is the freedom in Africa? Mm-hmm. You know, you sham elections, economic, you know what I mean? But I don't blame those who are coming in to take. If somebody coming to your house to take all the time, you need to find a way to change strategy. Our Africans are still sitting in the same place, doing the same thing over and over and over. Look at Indonesia, look at other Asian countries. They've been able to, find a better room to operate a little bit much more better. But our people are going backwards each turn because I don't know. It's so sad when I look at it. So I don't blame the Westerners coming in. I don't blame the Chinese coming in. If somebody keep on coming in your house and taking your things, when are you going to wake up? If you don't wake up, how are you blaming the person that see opportunity and they're taking it? And you sitting in there drinking beer, drinking ogogoro or whatever, you're not doing anything. Your government is selling you for peanut they can get. And the citizens, everybody is quiet, everybody's online. Until people begin, people can take what you give them these days. You fight. If instead of them taking the whole thing, they may give you half. They may give you, 75%. But now Africa is just like anybody can come and grab whatever they can get. And hey, it's okay. But the African Americans that own we share the continent probably get discriminated more when they're coming in than most of other people. These are your brothers and sisters with the highest intellectual and economic level GDP around the world. You're not embracing them. They build the system we call America, the railroad, the engineering, the road, the infrastructures. You would have thought that African nations would have been all over the place, hiring every African American engineer they can find, hiring every American police officer or they're retired or whatever they can find to help reconstruct in governors. No. We'd rather go find somebody else and pay them more money and worship them along the way.
Sure. Let me ask you, like, a couple of years ago, I don't know if you remember this, Uechenna, when the LAPD shot Brother Africa down there on Skid Row. Brother was from Cameroon. And, for the record, the officers were, exonerated, of course, of shooting that man. And I saw the video 100 times. I, for the life of me, don't understand why they needed to shoot that brother. But, nonetheless, because I had been doing work out on Skid Row, when they shot him in the news, they began to vilify Brother Africa, saying that he had served time in the penitentiary for bank robbery and all this here. And to me, that didn't matter because I don't think people grow up saying, I'm going to live on Skid Row. Something happens in their life that causes them to be in that condition. So, that was an irrelevant, topic. He still did not deserve to die. So I went out there and I began to talk to people on Skid Row, trying to find out who Brother Africa was. That was his street nickname. Who Brother Africa was in context of the Skid Row community. I found out that he was a very helpful man. He was helping some of the shop owners down there. There's just a lot of people had great respect for this brother on the streets of Skid Row. So I said, man, he needs a funeral. Where's his mom? Where's his family? He's this brother out here, where's he at? Long story short, I was able to, through the help of others, Pastor Sauls and others, we were able to find his mom and his sister, and we were able to get it moving forward. And we ended up having his funeral up at Holman United Methodist Church. Shipped his body back to Cameroon because he needed to be, buried on his homeland. That's the whole thing. But I think that what I learned out of that is a lot of the continental Africans were wondering how could this happen to us? Police shootings only happen to African Americans and all that. But the whole
Yeah.
thing is we black.
Yeah. Yeah.
Black,
Yeah.
black, black is black, right? And so I think that's what that lesson showed us. Are our African brothers and sisters shocked at what they're seeing nowadays in these headlines with all of these shootings and killings that are happening against black people?
Like you said, black is black. I mean, anybody who think they are special, whether you're an athlete in sports, for lack of better terms here, or whether you're a business rich man, you're a black man,
Mhm.
and you just have to compose yourself or do what you got to do to survive.
Mhm.
I don't necessarily believe that people purposely put themselves in a harm's way to get killed, but that's the time we live in. We live in a time that you probably need to do a little bit more to live to see another day. Yeah, you may be insulted. Yeah, you may go through humiliation. Do what you got to do to survive.
Mhm.
Like Bob Marley and most other, great sayers say, you know, live, fight and live to fight another day. You know what I mean? And it's sad. We all are scared. I mean, I have children. I'm on the road. I'm on the street. You go out, you pray every day. You scared, you consign, and you pray. You come home to your family. That's just the time we live in. So I don't think any African feeling like, oh, my accent is gonna save me. I don't think any African say, oh, I'm from Nigeria, from Cameroon, or South Africa is gonna save you if you find yourself in those situations.
Mhm.
My advice to me, to my family is try to live and fight the next day.
Mhm.
Try to, do whatever you can to survive that experience. And there are other avenues to really go after if you want to seek justice in that regard, but it's not worth dying for unless, since most of these things are not justified anyway, but it's happened. So it's a very sad situation that we all live in fear of not knowing what's going to happen when you step out, but it's a reality. It's
Good reality.
affecting everybody. Yeah.
All right, so now we have the family induction ceremony going on, and look, they gave me a name. My
You
name is
ready?
Ingood Johnson.
You Johnson, what does it mean? And your family tell you the meaning yet? I'm sure they
I
did.
I, have I forgot. I got to get my little my
How
little
you gonna tell people you forgot what your name means? That's
I
terrible.
did.
You see, you gotta know your name and what it means because
Well,
African names originally, when it's given by parents, I'm talking. When we say Africa, we need to be very careful.
mhm,
I'm talking when I say African, I'm an African. I'm speaking specifically my own culture. So
mhm,
sometimes we use the word African. People think you're speaking for all Africans. I'm not speaking for all Africans because there's so many tribes and tradition and customs and norms that is not even, it's hard to even know all of them, right?
right.
So But in my own belief, in my own culture, your name is like your DNA code that you grow with. And if your parents begin to use that name, oftentimes when you do something wrong, they remind you what your name is. When you are afraid, they remind you why you are given that name. Like my name is Uechenna, means the will of God, God's will. There have been many times I found myself in a situation of dismay. I feel like nothing is going well. I feel like life will never. My mother will always remind me, remember who you are, remember your name. There is a reason why that's your name. God's will happen. Stay poised, stay focused, stay, you know what I mean, committed. Da 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 da. That's what African names are mean to us. We just don't give them because we like it. Oh, it sounds good. No, it tells your parents' story at a given moment. You know, if like when I was born when I wasn't expected to be born in the first place. You know, my oldest brother, can be my father. I was the last one that came, right? My big sisters, I'm only 1 year older than my big sister's first daughter.
Oh,
So
wow.
so when I came, it was the will of God that I came. You know, and because they see it, my coming is the will of God, because they were not expecting to have more kids. But guess what? They see me as a blessing, as a will of God, and that has really helped me. Even now, I always believe a lot of things that happen to me, I look up to God. I say, God, if it's that will, let this happen, because it's my faith in my name, and my relationship with my mother, my father, and God. So names are important, my brother. Remember your name.
It's
Remember your
interesting
name.
because,
Yeah.
that's something my mother used to always say, remember who you are, right?
Yeah.
It's like, you remember who you are. But, you should, I got, to your point, it's so funny. Someone was asking me just the other day about South Africa and like how many languages there. I was like, there's like 11 official languages there. And they were like, what? I was like, yes, it's so funny you say that when we go over to Africa, it's not a blanket.
No,
Like
it's not.
everybody is different. And
Mm-mm.
I remember, so to your point, okay, so I got Ngu, my day name from Ghana, they told me that's Kweku. My friend in South Africa gave me an African name, Sheppel. And so I got three names already.
You got 3 names, but guess what? Your induction ceremony on August 20th. Think about what this ceremony is going to be about. Now, let's talk about the induction ceremony
Mhm.
and what it means and why we celebrate this in a big way we do. First, as a continental African, all the families that are in there are 28 people that are going to be inducted along with you to Zambia, Uganda, Cameroon, Nigeria, Ghana, and all these families opening up their homes and say, hey, for instance, in your own case, you've been inducted by Beltus and Estella Ngwafang from Cameroon. Among, I believe they inducted all that 3 or 4 people into Cameroon family, their family. Now, yes, they're giving you your name. We've already revealed the name. Taking this a step further, we invited a king this year from Uganda to actually be there to present you to the king and say, this is my brother, this is my sister, and letting the whole world know. It's no longer like you said, I'm not going to minimize it. You can go anywhere in Africa, they, out of some excitement, they give you a name. But this is official now. When
That's
you
right.
have the king blesses you for this coming back, acknowledging you two families are now, it's more like a marriage. It's more like a bond, that you're going to share with the Ngwafang's family. It becomes something a little bit much more uh, uh, serious. It becomes much more divine in a way that your children, your family know that they have a family in Cameroon. If you ever show up in Cameroon and you go to the one family, they will receive you as much as one of their own versus you visiting Cameroon as a tourist. If you show up in Cameroon right now in his own area as a tourist without induction, you're going as as a tourist, right? You're gonna stay in the hotel, you do the village things and all of that. But here you've been inducted, you show up in that family, in that community, in that village, is a different ball game because you have that bond, you have that family ties now. It's up to you. We've seen for the last 17 years, we've seen people who are being inducted and ended up getting a land from their inducted family. They want to build a house. They go back and with the family that inducted them, form a better relationship.
Nice.
And some have seen it differently in terms of the way the level of relationship. So it's up to an individual. Once you've been inducted in the family, you can take it to the next level. You can take it to mean what it's supposed to mean. You can visit. You want to do business in Africa. For instance, let's say you want to do business in Cameroon right now. All your business partners, you want to run a reference on them. Who are you going to call? You already have a family. You're going to call Betis and say, hey, I'm trying to buy coffee from Cameroon or whatever you buy from Cameroon at the point. These are my business partners. Can somebody run a check on these guys and see? You have a relationship. That's what induction is. And that's what we're trying to do with this program, that every African American have the right. We're not talking about a privilege. It is your natural right to be inducted into an African family. Do it any way you want. You can visit Africa and be inducted. You can do it here because the same family you're going to induct you in Africa, Africans are here in this community.
Yeah.
You can deal with them on day-to-day basis. So induction is our way of restoring the African family the best way we can. Yes.
It's really interesting. Cameroon is. I want to go there so bad. We're already conducting business over there, and there's so many other things that we want to do. I want to see. The political situation over there is kind of sketchy, but that's okay. We'll wait for it to die down. But I'm going. I'm going. I want to get up into those mountains and meet the farmers. And now that I have a Cameroonian family, as you say, I want to meet. And that's a. The other thing is, and I hope that. My Cameroonian family is listening right now. What do we eat?
I mean, I mean the kind of food they eat.
Yes.
Oh, you and I are going there on Saturday, are we not? Oh, don't worry. I believe we're going to their family on Saturday, right? We're going to go visit.
Yes, we are. Yes.
Yes, then all your answers about what we eat, you're going to say it.
Nice.
More especially your sister, which is Betu's wife, is one of the best Cameroonian chefs you can think of in town.
What?
And I've already told her I want mine to go back, put it on the side,
Yes.
but don't ask me what I have when I'm leaving, because I will share with you, okay? So she already know what she is one of the best chefs.
Wow.
I kid you not. So come hungry.
Yeah.
We're gonna feast. We're gonna feast.
Yeah.
Cameroon style,
I
yes.
love to eat. It's
Yeah.
so funny as we talk about culinary arts and food, and it's always food to me is always a good way to bring people together. And we would look at our brothers and sisters in Africa and the food that they eat, because oftentimes when people ask me, what do they eat over there? I like to tell the story about the time I went over to Southern Africa. I was a guest of Brother Dumisama Goba. He's in Zululand in eastern South Africa. And he would fly me over. He does a big music award show over there in South Africa, in just outside of Durban. So one of the years that I went, I decided that I wanted to take some meetings, with prominent influencers in that region because I was actually trying to do a music festival here. So I rented a car. I hired a driver, but I drove. I just didn't want to get lost, so that's why I hired my brother to I wouldn't let him drive. I wanted to drive. So we were out in the man. I can't even tell you what town that was, but it was. I mean, it wasn't a tourist place. It was the Africa. And we went to the open air market, and the sister was selling greens. And I said, "Oh, these are greens." And she looked at me. She says, "Oh, you're American. You have greens in America?" And we begin to have this conversation about how we, Black Americans, we eat greens. And I come to find out it was almost the same exact, like to the T, of how we eat it and everything. And I'm like, wow, man, our culinary taste survived the middle
It
passage
did. Yes.
into our soul food. It's really something.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
I mean, we are family. You know, the culture. There's been a lot of assault, on our culture.
Mhm.
But one thing people always ask me, who is an African?
Mhm.
I say, you don't need to be told who is an African. You don't need me to tell you whether you're an African. You know if you're an African because the rhythm and the beat and the soul of Africa is in you.
Yeah.
Even when you're denying it, oh, I'm more sophisticated, or you this, you that, you got money, your class has changed. Uh-uh. Africa don't leave you. When that drum beats,
Yeah.
when that drum beats, you want to know who is an African.
Yeah.
No matter how uptight they want to sit and act like they are untouchable, now they in their pedestal because they got money and all of that, or whatever the class, social class they've attended. Beat that drum, something goes off. There are things that makes us African, our spirituality. Yes, it has come into attack by different forms of religion, but it's in us. Our rhythm, our soul, our who we are is entirely intact. No matter the abuse we've gone through, some have now evolved, but who we are as Africans, you know who is an African. If you don't know whether you're an African, then you're not African. But in your soul, you know you're an African. You just paint, you covering it, or you want to paint a picture. Oh, I'm this, I'm that. You want to show off other social for social reasons. You want to deny, but Africa is in you. It doesn't die. That drum hit, you feel it. It's a call, it's a soul, it's your culture, it's the food, it's everything about you outside your Gucci bags and your Versace's and all of that money and fame. When it comes down to it, Africa knows you are an African. No matter
Nice.
the enslavement, no matter the how far removed from the continent. Even the black Chinese Africans, black Indian Africans, wherever you see Africans, people sometimes mistake who is an African. There are people born in the continents, but there are Africans. When I say this, oh, everybody's an African. Yeah, everybody's an African, but guess what? When it suits them, they're all Africans economically. But when it doesn't, they want to claim something else. But original African man knows who he is. And we are peace-loving people. We are very unique class of people, which is why we've been taken advantage of more than any other race in this world. It's the divine, the peace, and who we are, is entirely wholesome. We didn't create wars. Wars started bringing all these things to the black man. How many countries is a black man in charge of in Africa? You may not count more than three. The what you call African, it has always been in a. They've destroyed that African man all these years, from Egypt to Ethiopia to everywhere in Africa, African man is, you probably find them in the mountain or somewhere. Does that mean the other ones are not African? I didn't say that. I'm just saying, who, quote unquote, is that black man, that black woman? Where are they today?
You know, Uechenna, you mentioned that you have a king from Uganda coming, and the monarchies really fascinate me. And we've been kind of on a mission with this program, Coffee Conversations with Greg J. To every time we turn around, they're talking about the Queen Elizabeth, the royals, and so we've been on a mission to, examine monarchies on the continent. We've been focused on the Zulu kingdom, just because King Goodwill passed away, and there's a whole, you know, royal story, if you will, over the new king coming in and all of that. And I just think that while in the main we're hearing so much about Queen Elizabeth, we every month there's something happening with the Queen of England. We have our own, monarchies all across the continent of Africa. How important is traditional leadership, like really, in modern times, to the African?
I'm glad you asked that. Every African, for the most part, there is always exception anyway. Church is important. Christianity is important.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of them knows what their traditional religion is. When going goes too tough, they go behind the scene and go trying to find that spirituality. Everybody knows where their deity is.
Mm-hmm.
Our culture, yes, we've embraced Western world as much as we can. Culture is important. It's our way of life. It's how we structure husband and wife families. It's how we structure, how we raise our children. You can still raise them in a Western style of education. You still teach them the principles of culture. For instance, in my own culture, you don't use left hand to greet an elder. That's just a simple, thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
My own children were born in America. They will not do it. They will not give you anything with their left hand. Even when they miss, oh, I'm sorry, they change hand. Because culture lives is important. It defines who we are. Colonization seems like it was an assault on culture. Now, culture is making a revival in Africa. The hypocrisy of a lot of these religions are coming into light. People are going back to the root. You see more masquerade. You see more cultural activities now going on in Instagram and YouTube, and cultures are beginning to re-emerge. There is a lot of movement going back to the root, going back to who we are happening now. So culture is important. And traditional rulers or leaders who have not been compromised are even more important. But some of them that have been compromised are irrelevant. People ignore them and still living their lives. But when they are a key player in preserving culture, in promoting peace and all of that, they become the best kings. People celebrate them. People, embrace them. Versus when they use their power and commit all kinds of atrocities and all of that because you're a king. So it's important. Yes, it's an important institution in our families or in our communities.
Yeah, I've been in the presence of a few kings. I know one of my favorite monarchy stories is when I was at the African Focus event, and you had the king and queen. And when I
Yes.
met the queen, we just vibed, and she says to me, "Sit down." And I was like, oh, sit down right next to her, while everybody was greeting her. I sat next to her, because she was, sit down, we started talking, but I just felt this like, okay, yes, ma'am.
Yeah. No,
you know,
there is it's something. I took my kids to Nigeria and I took them to the palace.
mm,
It was one of their best moments to see where the elders sit and make rules. To see the kings, when you enter the palace, no matter how big or small, there is an aura
Mhm.
of the majestic of this place
Mhm.
hits you hard. You know what I mean? So even now, when you go to any palace and see where the king and the chiefs and all of that goes down, it's a different feeling.
Mhm.
So yeah, I still have a lot of respect for the kings that we have, our traditional leaders, and I honor them because they still keeping us traditionally important and relevant.
So now, which palace is that? Is that the Ife of Uni?
No, I'm from Igbo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not from Yoruba, so I'm from the East. you know,
Ah,
and yes, and so of course, Igbos are a different kind of. It's a different topic for a different day.
okay, I got it. I
Our
got it.
the way we structured is entirely different. Igbos started practicing democracy before even democracy knows what democracy is all about because
Wow.
of the way we structured.
Mhm.
The role of women, as powerful as they are, the role of elders who governs or selected from the family, is entirely different structure, the way our people and who we make king. King
Mhm.
are not born, king are made by people who believe by your share contribution in the community, by your presence, by your wisdom or knowledge, they can bestow a king on you.
I see.
So our structure is entirely different from some of the other communal kingdoms. So it's a different topic for one day, you
You
know.
know, that's important to remember that while Africa is mostly all of us, Black people, there are definitely different communities and societies
Mhm.
contained in there. And I'm
Yeah.
just reminiscing now as I'm listening to you. I go back to South Africa. A friend of mine I've built a lot of relationships all across the continent, and a lot of radio people now are my friends and everything. And so a friend of mine is a popular radio broadcaster in South Africa, and she knew we were coming, and it so happened that her radio station was doing a live broadcast next door to the museum where I was bringing my group. So while they were in the museum, I went over and she invited me to be on the air. And so I'm looking, and and the place where they were doing the live broadcast was a casino. It's a big place. There's tens of thousands of people in there enjoying the casino and everything. And so we're up in the glass booth, and I go, man, Linda, you can tell, who's Zulu, who's Sepedi, who's Indabelli, all that. She goes, oh yeah. And I said, well, how? And she's telling me the different characteristics of each
Mhm.
tribe. And then she goes, we can also tell, Americans. I'm like, wow, how do you do that? Because when I look across this crowd, all I see is a bunch of Black people. And she said, no, we can tell Americans. And I go, why? Because we walk with a certain confidence that says we are standing up to the forces of colonization. They see that in how we walk and how we talk and how we conduct ourselves. And they say, oh, that's an American over there. It's really, really interesting. Now, in your area, can you tell the different? So, if okay, so can you tell a Yoruba if you see it?
I'll smell any other tribe other than mine out. Even in Igbo land, I will tell you the specific area of Igbo you from. You know what I mean? I can tell. I mean, Igbo, now we have different tribes in Igbo in the eastern part, or if just eastern Nigeria in general.
Uh-huh.
You can narrow it down to your own, the next tribe from yours, because let's say my tribe is Long Beach,
Hmm.
and you have another tribe that is in maybe Carson or Torrance.
Hmm.
If I'm from Long Beach, I can tell you who's from Carson, and
Wow.
I can tell you who's from Long Beach. Then I can go from there and tell you who's from Sacramento and who's from New York. And, yes, you
Wow.
can tell. Like he said, maybe the way they talk and the way the marks, the color, even the look, is can even give you. There are so many traits you pick up, even the way they speak. can tell you, this person is from this and so. It used to
Mm,
be easier when they used to have tribal marks, but they don't do tribal marks anymore. Tribal marks will tell you which tribe the person is.
mm,
If it's a line, people may have two or one, or depend on how they are. You see, some of the Yorubas have tribal. Some Igbos before I believe before the independence or right after, used to have Igbo tribal marks. You can tell who is Igbo and all of
yeah.
that. So, but those things are gone for the most part. But still, just by the way, Igbos look different from Yorubas. Yorubas look different from the Hausas. Hausas definitely look different from the Fulanis.
Uh,
You know, so all of us look uniquely different by structure, the way we look, probably because of what we eat, or it just in general times the way we were designed. So yes, you can tell.
mm, mm. Man, there's so much more we can cover here. I'm looking at the time. I'm like, man, this just went by fast. This is
I
fascinating
know.
stuff, and always a pleasure to speak with you, brother Uechenna. Man, we
Same
go back.
here. Same here.
Common denominator is our path towards this bridge building. For us, our intersection began at the West Angeles Church.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
that's
Yes.
something. You know, I wonder if Bishop Blake and them like really realize like the magnitude of opening our minds towards this Pan African bridge building. The stuff that we're doing together now, is
I
like,
know because he came to the event. We honored him in 2009,
mm,
and he came to the event. And I must say this, my brother, thank you, because I met you when we were starting this organization without so much, references. It's a new organization. I remember when Daryl Smith introduced you and I told you, I said, my brother, this is what we're doing. We're going to invite Rita Marley, Bob Marley's wife, to the show. And I would want her to be on the radio, for an interview. You were like, my brother, I would do, and just let me know. Stop by the studio. And I came, I remember we walked through it. So when she arrived, it so happened she was that visit was the best thing that she said she's seen in LA for the longest, because she was able to see her husband picture with Steve Wonders, and remember all the time they spent together when both of them worked in the music and all of that. So it was more like a visit back to the memory lane. And I just want to thank you for believing in the organization way back then. And ever since then, you and I has been nothing but a brother. I just want to say thank you. I really do appreciate your support of this
and I
organization.
appreciate you too. Now
Yeah.
August 20th is the day, and that's when we're gonna do it.
August 20th, Saturday, August 20th. Anybody who wants to experience African culture in its finest, with everything cultural. The
Mm.
king is coming. The cultural dancers gonna be there. The food is gonna be great, and you're gonna see each of these African countries. Greg is gonna be wearing Cameroon attire, traditional Cameroon attire. The ones that I'm inducting in my family will be dressed in Igbo Nigerian attire. My brother Paul is inducting, he's from Yoruba. You're going to see all his inductees going to wear Yoruba attire. Uganda, Ghana, the Ghana family is going to wear Ghana attire. So it's a festival of our cultural differences and units. So anybody who want to enjoy a ceremony, you can go to African Focus or website
Yeah, give us that
www dot
website I'm putting in the chat right now.
okay uh,
So it's africanfocus.com.
.org. Yes,
.org.
yes.
Okay. Make sure I got it right there. AfricanFocus.org. All right, y'all. There it is. Look, or just hit me up because I got to sell some tickets too. So I'll get one.
Yes, for their meal is a full 3-course meal with drinks and all of that. So It's a festival and dress your finest. This is our own African Oscar, if you may, because people really dress well to come to this event. I have people that start making their dresses a year in advance because
Mhm.
they're coming to the African Goodwill Award and induction. So you want to come and be part of the experience, hit my brother up and we will go from there.
I got tickets. Come on, let's go. That's what's up. All
Yeah.
right, now before we get out of here, talk about your trip next year. We're going to South Africa.
We're going to South Africa. We're going to Zimbabwe. We're going to visit South Africa and then have an add-on visit to Victoria Falls, which is Zimbabwe, for
Yes.
maybe 3 days. So we're excited. We're
Yeah.
excited. And the phone and people are beginning to sign up. So anybody want to go? We have a limited number. It's not like we're going to have, we want people to have the experience. So we're trying to limit the number to our cap. So anybody want to come is a year in advance. We generally start early, and it's our belief as an organization. We're a non-profit organization. We want to do this to make it easy for our people to pick your bag and go. You pay your bill, 90, most of all your, your transportation, your hotel, the sites you will visit, and most of your meal is part of the package. Just pick your bag and go. And you can make payment from now until we go in June. That way, it's easier to plan ahead. So, it's our belief that every African American should visit Africa or many African countries before their lifetime. It's your right. Visit the continent. Feel the air, feel the breeze. Your forefathers fought for the opportunity for you to go back. And it's an important trip, including me as an African. I haven't been to a lot of African countries. So it's also an opportunity for me to explore and learn about other African countries and cultures and bond with people that we're going to meet on the tour. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I have a lot of African friends that always are like, we don't get a chance to tour and see, and so
No, we don't.
they want to go to as many African countries. Even like my friends in South Africa, they want to see the same tours that we're seeing when we go there.
Yeah.
That's good. I'm so glad you guys are going to South Africa. That's great.
Yeah.
Uh, I've been taking groups down there since 2010, and
Yeah,
that's
I've heard about it. And some of our people that went talked about your trip, how wonderful they enjoyed it too. So I'm glad that we are doing what is best for the continent and best for our people. Yes.
yeah, that's good stuff. All right. Any last words for the people?
Love you, my people. And let's keep hope alive. Let's keep working on building a bridge of love and unity and progress for all Africans. May God bless everybody. And hopefully we'll do this again.
Yes,
Yeah.
it. You got an open door over here. Just come on, let's get it.
I will do. Maybe after our trip, after our induction, we probably bring all the inductees into the show and talk about the experience. Or
Yes,
after our trip, maybe yes, we should. Let's talk. See how we can
yes,
make it happen. Yes.
yes. Let's do it. All
Yeah.
right, y'all. Coffee Conversations with Greg J is available on our Facebook page, Coffee Conversations with Greg J. There's a few other pages there. Beach City Perspective. That's our news platform. We're getting ready to launch a printed newspaper to go along with that. Or you can just go over to beachcityradio.com, beachcityradio.com. You can see it there. And later on today, we're going to repurpose this audio and put it out there as a podcast wherever you get your favorite podcasts, iHeart, Spreaker, Spotify, Google, just wherever. Just put it out there. Coffee Conversations with Greg J. Love one another, y'all. Love one another. Love one another. Peace and blessings.
Thank you.